The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
Main characters. The Little Prince: the story's protagonist. A young, curious boy from a tiny asteroid. He is serious, questioning, and represents the innocence, wonder, and emotional depth that adults often lose. The narrator / the pilot: an adult who has crash-landed in the desert. He represents the adult world, but he still has a childlike heart, which allows him to understand and befriend the prince. He is the story's link between the two worlds. The rose: a beautiful, proud, and demanding flower on the prince's planet. She represents love, beauty, and vulnerability. Her flaws are a mask for her deep love for the prince. The fox: a wise creature the prince meets on Earth. He is the story's main teacher. He teaches the prince about the nature of relationships, taming, responsibility, and the secrets of life. The snake: the first character the prince meets on Earth. He is powerful and speaks in riddles. He represents death, but in the story, death is not an end but a necessary passage to return home.
The story begins with the narrator, a pilot who has crash-landed his plane in the vast Sahara Desert. He is completely alone, with very little food or water, and has 1,000 miles to go to be rescued. This is a life-or-death situation. As he is trying to fix his engine on the first morning, he is startled by a small, golden-haired voice. The voice asks him politely, "Please draw me a sheep." And so begins the narrator's friendship with the little prince, a mysterious traveler from another planet. The pilot, who gave up drawing as a child because adults couldn't understand his drawings, tries his best. He draws several sheep, but the prince rejects them all. One is too sick, one is a ram not a sheep, and one is too old. Finally, the frustrated pilot draws a simple box and tells the prince that the sheep is inside. To his surprise, the little prince is delighted. This is exactly what he wanted. As the pilot tries to repair his plane, the prince tells him about his life. He comes from a tiny planet, barely bigger than a house, called Asteroid B612. On his planet, there are good plants and bad plants. The good plants are simple flowers with one ring of petals. The bad plants are baobab trees. If a baobab is not pulled out when it's very small, it will grow huge, and its roots can tear the little plant apart. The prince's life is one of simple duties: sweeping his 2 active volcanoes, which are great for heating breakfast, and pulling out the baobab sprouts every day. The most important thing on his planet is a beautiful, but very vain, rose. The rose arrived on the planet as a seed and grew into a unique flower. She is proud, demanding, and often dramatic. She asks for a glass globe to protect her from the wind, a screen to shield her from drafts, and she boasts about her 4 thorns that can supposedly protect her from tigers. The little prince loves her, but he is too young to understand how to love her properly. He takes her words seriously, which makes him unhappy and doubtful. He decides to leave his planet to learn more about the universe, and at the moment of his departure, the rose admits she loves him but was too proud to show it. She tells him not to linger and lets him go. On his journey, the little prince visits 6 other asteroids, each inhabited by a single, absurd adult. These encounters show the prince how strange the adult world is. 1. The king, who claims to rule over everything, but his commands are only reasonable. He orders the prince to be his ambassador, but the prince leaves. 2. The conceited man, who wants nothing but admiration and applause. He wants the prince to admit that he is the most handsome, best dressed, richest, and most intelligent man on the planet, even though he is alone. 3. The drunkard, who drinks to forget that he is ashamed of drinking. This is a sad, senseless cycle. 4. The businessman, who is constantly counting the stars, claiming he owns them, so he can be rich and buy more stars. He is completely disconnected from the beauty of the stars themselves. 5. The lamplighter, who has a job that is ridiculous but somehow noble. He must light and then put out his lamp every minute because his planet spins so fast. He follows his orders without question, even though he is exhausted. The prince respects him because he thinks of something other than himself. 6. The geographer, who sits in his study and records information given to him by explorers, but he never leaves his desk to see the things he writes about. He asks the prince to describe his planet, but when the prince mentions the rose, the geographer says flowers are ephemeral and are not recorded. This word ephemeral scares the prince, making him realize his rose might one day disappear.
The geographer advises the prince to visit Earth. On Earth, the prince first lands in the desert and meets his snake. The snake speaks in riddles and says that he can send the prince back to his planet with a single bite. He then crosses the desert and finds a garden full of roses, all identical to his own. This breaks his heart because he thought his rose was the only one in the universe. He lies down in the grass and cries, and at his lowest point, he meets a fox. The fox explains a secret to him. What is essential is invisible to the eye. The fox asks the prince to tame him. He explains that taming means creating tails. Before, they were just like 100 other boys and 100 other foxes. But if the prince tames him, they will need each other. They will become unique in all the world to each other. The prince realizes that this is exactly what happened with his rose. He tamed her, which is why she is so important to him, even though there are thousands of other roses that look just like her. It is the time he wasted on his rose that makes her so important. Before leaving, the fox gives him his secret, a simple truth. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose. The prince returns to the desert to find a pilot. They spend 8 days together, searching for a well. They become friends, and the pilot learns about the prince's deep love and concern for his flower. Finally, they find a well, and the water is like music to them, a gift to the heart. It is the anniversary of the prince's arrival on Earth. He walks with the pilot to the spot where he first landed, and the pilot sees the snake. The prince knows he must return to his planet and his rose. He tells the pilot not to watch, that it will look like he is dying, but it will not be real. He allows the snake to bait him, and he falls silently into the sands. The pilot is heartbroken, but he knows the prince has returned to his star. He fixes his plane and flies home. To this day, he loves to look at the stars and listen to them, wondering if the little prince's sheep has eaten the rose. For him, all the stars are now special because he knows on one of them, his friend is laughing.